Okay, Shez, guess what? I'm not the only one shouting British bias. I have to admit, though, I don't like my ally on this one, though. I mean, look at you, man. Look at you. I have now the power of the president of the FIA coming after you. And let's talk about that because why not? All right, so full disclosure, we are only having this discussion because there's no goddamn race. Oops, am I allowed to say that? I don't know. Whatever, I just did. We're having no race.
Community service.
Uh,
Sorry. Oh man, my English is
we're doing
deserting
community
me.
service. There you go. So I'm already, this is my community service. And Chez, would you know it? A few weeks ago, I took on this battle that I thought I was taking on behalf of non-British fans of the sport, trying to give some valid, fair criticism that I would hope would make an impact in the coverage, such that it might. And then, of course, in comes flying in, wearing his Superman cape, jumping right into the boat where no one, and by that I mean literally no one asked him to chime in. He just comes flying in, soaring in with the wings of ignorance beneath him, right? He's just coming in and
I
he
love it. I
has
love it.
uh, the one and only, look at me, Louis, Mr. Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the president of the FIA, out here to fix Formula One because, of course, that's what it needs right now, fixing. Swaggers in with another interview, I guess, with Motorsport again. Feeling like a martyr alongside Max Verstappen after, I guess he was the one who technically penalized him. No, I don't know, whatever. He feels like he's a martyr in this sense, in that you guys, you British media, you guys are the one that have crucified him, that have basically vilified him, have not allowed him to be given any kind of credit for any good thing that has happened. And you're always screaming and shouting and complaining and yada yada. I don't even know. When in fact you should be praising him. So to that, what do you say, Mr. British media?
Ah, I say, what an ally to have in your corner. This man speaks ultimate truth, obviously. I really enjoyed reading this particular interview because it came off the back of the interview that he did also with Autosport just before the Singapore Grand Prix that ended up resulting in the swearing thing with Max, which I have to say we haven't covered it in a huge amount of detail, but it just adds to an ongoing litany of media faux pas that the president keeps making. But I have to say, I read this and I thought of you, Omar. I thought of you, and I thought, wow, does Omar agree with this? Is he like clapping MBS along?
You know what? I'm going to surprise you a little bit. I think this is a very smart play by him. I think that the FIA presidential election is coming up, not to be confused with presidential elections happening here in the US. A delightful time to be in America, by the way. Um, this guy, he sounds to me like he is secure. I mean, I know many of y'all think that he's going to be done after this term. Sounds to me like he's got some level of security. He knows something where he's kind of coming out and speaking his truth to power, I guess, to the extent that it can be. So my first inclination when reading this is, of course, after several eye rolls, is this guy's talking like someone that has the support of the General Assembly, because otherwise he wouldn't be saying that. It's either that or he is planting the seed for his eventual departure and trying to blame it on the General Assembly. It could be just one or the other, right? But you're
Yeah,
thinking,
but the FIA president is elected by motorsport authorities around the world, right? And they're
right,
not, and all they have to do is like the United Nations, they have to garner support from each of these tiny little authorities
sure.
everywhere. And often, yeah, money and favors speak. And I don't mean that directly in terms of bribes, but I mean in terms of like what support the president has given to that country. Like, for example, you'd expect that the Middle Eastern countries, because they've received a lot of races off the back of Mohammed bin Sulayem and the FIA, are going to want to hang around and they're going to want his support. So they're probably going to vote for him. Um, at the
Well,
moment,
what?
go on. But also sports that are not Formula One, they're 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 the countries that host those kind of races, Dakar, um, Junior Formulae, Rally, um, WEC, all of the countries and sporting authorities that are associated with those championships, we don't know which way they're going to vote. And although I've read somewhere that the rally fraternity are also pretty annoyed that I know that Sebastien Ogier and Thierry Neuville all kind of turned around, or was it Otanek, all turned around and said, we're not going to speak in the post-rally FIA press conferences because we don't want to get done for swearing. Although that is happening everywhere, it's more likely that their governing bodies are ultimately going to say, yeah, he's the right man for the job. And to some extent, I can understand that because although he comes across really badly, actually what the FIA has done under his auspices is actually pretty good. Yes, we've had a few high profile departures earlier on this season, but that tends to be people that have turned up and then left at the end of their tenure. They've come, done a job, and then left, and they've essentially left the FIA governance process and streamlined it and made it a better place to work and a better organization. And you kind of have to the evidence for that is that when you listen to people like Toto Wolff or Christian Horner talking about the FIA, they often don't say very many bad things about them. They often say, actually, we're quite well managed. Um, and even if F1 are at loggerheads with them, generally the team principals don't seem to have a big problem with the FIA. And that, I think, is telling. The problem is with how the president conducts himself, which is very, very Jean-Marie Balestre. Um, I find that very interesting. That when Balestre was the FIA or Pfizer president in the late 80s, early 90s, he was accused of being too French and favoring the French driver on the F1 grid. It's you can imagine that he would have wanted to speak out against the British media at the time. This guy's gone and done it.
He's done it, and I think part of it, to your point, it seems like a political ploy, right? So it is me against the British media, and so I guess he's trying to appeal to the rest of the world, right? In some ways, it seems like. I also think that it's on the back of a very popular season in Formula One. I mean, I don't think that he would be saying these things had Max been running away with the title. I think there's something to be said about the fact that it's an interesting season, therefore more eyeballs and more attention. That's why he's inserted himself. I'm not suggesting for a second that he has a lot to do or everything to do with the season being. I think we can call this a successful season, hopefully without any debate, right? No matter how this pans out, these next six races. Um, he wants to kind of put himself back in the spotlight, and I thought that it's an interesting move, right? Because the president of the FIA is not somebody that you should really see in the limelight. I mean, to be honest, there's some insane quotes by him, right? I mean, to me, like the fundamental idea of being the leader of an administrative body is to be in the news as less as you can be. Like you should not be a known commodity. It doesn't mean that you are not known in places where decisions are made and things like that. Like that's where you have the political power that you do. That's where you have all the cachet that you do. That's absolutely fine. But in the broadest sense, to put yourself out there, to me, it's either a distraction or it's just a moment of like, I want to kind of get in there. Let me know, because I can't really pinpoint to what the strategy is outside of just trying to secure his long-term future.
I mean, it may look. I think Matt Bishop tweeted about this today that these are the words of a public figure that is either not listening or is not getting any media training. Like these aren't the things that someone says if they've been briefed by somebody beforehand, by a press officer or whatever. And I think that holds some credence. I especially like the line where he said, "I respect Max, but let's talk about me." Okay,
Hey, Brett,
very
top
good.
five.
Yeah. No, I love that. But I do want to push back a little bit on the staying in the background. I don't think that's ever really been the style of the FIA president. The I think Jean Todt was an outlier in that regard. Like
Yeah.
he was very sort of in the background, laissez-faire in terms of how he managed the FIA. And actually, he got criticised for that quite a lot. And certainly, you know, uh, on the last day of his administration,
Yes.
when Abu Dhabi happened, there was a lot of talk about like why were the FIA not stepping in? Well, that's just not Jean Todt's um, USP. That's just not how he his modus operandi. Um, but that was just him. But if you look backwards to Max Mosley and before him, Jean-Marie Balestre, they used to be in the limelight a lot. Max, I didn't mind too much because actually, he's a trained lawyer, a trained barrister, in fact, so he knew how to speak, he knew how to construct a sentence. English was his first language, which, actually he's the only FIA president who for whom that's true. So he could create a soundbite pretty easily, and had the power to do so. I think it's very different for MBS in terms of like I'm not making excuses. The stuff that he's saying is absolutely nuts, and the crusades that he is going on, the Susie Wolf thing, nuts. The jewelry thing, nuts. The swearing thing, just ridiculous. All of it, just silly, 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 silly stuff by a person that just wants to be in the limelight. I think I don't have a problem with the FIA president wanting to be in the limelight. Do it for something actually important. Do it for something that's gonna make the sport better. When Max Mosley stepped in and did something,
Jess, you're
he
that is not a valid point to say stepping in for that race. Now, I don't want to relitigate
no,
everything.
no, I don't mean which race are you talking about?
The last, well, I mean,
No, 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 I'm not
it's
talking
been-
about that. When Max Mosley stepped in, he stepped in and made Formula One safe. He made it the safest it
but
possibly
Mohammed Ben
could
Sulayem would
be.
argue he's done that too.
When?
It's
By
safer. I mean, we all saw the Roman Grosjean
That
accident.
wasn't him. That wasn't him.
I
That
know
was
it may not
that
be
was
him, but it's going
so,
to be
but
tough.
this is no, but it's not. It's not even. It's close to his
But we haven't had
jurisdiction.
an accident like
Roman
that
Grosjean
since.
happened in
I
2020.
understand that, but nothing's happened like that since then. Well,
So
name an
okay,
accident where that's happened, like Jogo and you, I guess, in Silverstone, right?
Ammar, I'm talking about broad strokes here, right? I'm talking about what is his legacy going to be. He didn't introduce the new technical regulations, which was on the off the back of Jean Todt's administration. They were the ones that really started to fund, alongside Liberty, the idea of creating a set of technical regulations that allow the car behind to follow better. So that is going to be part of Todt's legacy. The safety thing, making Formula One so safe that until 2014 we didn't see another driver death, right? That's going to be Max Mosley's legacy, like ongoing safety initiatives in Formula One that put safety above everything else. That's going to be Max Mosley's legacy. I don't know what you're going to say about Jean-Marie Balestre, but I think Balestre and MBS are cut from the same cloth, right? So that's my argument. If you're going to step in for something that makes a difference, man,
Just,
not for the
but
nonsense that he's
I
stepping in
understand
for.
that, but I completely agree with you, by the way. I mean, leadership happens in the background. All of these things happen I mean, even going back to the swearing thing, if that was really a point of pain, he didn't need to come out and say it in an interview. He could have just done it behind the scenes, and none of us would have even known about that. They could have briefed the drivers privately and kind of taken care of that. This did not need to be said in public. The reason it's being said in public is he wants his name attached to some of these things. And the
Yeah,
reason for that is, again, he either wants to stay in power or, as you said, have some kind of lasting legacy.
legacy.
And
And
there's
I feel like that's what he wants his legacy to be. His legacy seems to be one of image, of cleaning up the image of F1, but he goes about it so badly. The swearing interview was wrapped up in not racism per se, but
yeah,
there were some problematic
racist
remarks
undertones.
when it came to race, weren't there? Like if you're going to do it, and it's not necessarily an ignoble aim to try and clean up the language or the perception of Formula One. But don't do it with so many contradictions, right? Don't say that jewelry is banned and then say that on safety grounds, and then say that it's okay for Pierre Gasly to wear his crucifix. Like it can't be one or the other. If it's for safety, it has to be absolute, surely. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
the
but
aim might be honorable. It might have a justifiable reason, but the execution is just so off kilter that you can't take it seriously. That's his problem. And I go back to what Matt Bishop said about media training, that there just isn't any evidence that that's happened or that he is just
he's ignored
willfully
it. Yeah.
ignoring it.
Yeah. It could be that, right? I mean, I think oftentimes we've seen this people in power want to do things and not be told that they can't or they shouldn't do certain things because of how it might play out in the public. And honestly, just in the context of everything, this is a pretty sort of naive thing, right? Like it's a negligent thing. I mean, we'll talk about it and we'll forget it because the season is so good. But I think to your point, there are much more pressing things that he could put his footprint on and sort of have his legacy. I mean, one of the most obvious ones is to have a race in the continent of Africa. Like, well, why is that taking so long? Like, or I
But
don't even know if it's
that's not on him. That's not
right.
on
I
him.
know it's not
That's
on
not
him,
his job.
but
But
he can influence.
but it's
But
not the FIA's job to do that.
sure, I agree. But I mean, if
And the problem with that argument, right, is when he did try and step in and get an 11th team on board, look what happened. The FOM will turn around and say it's not your jurisdiction. Get off our turf. Uh, he doesn't need to get involved in that. What he could say things if he wants to, but they often get him in trouble. But that's not his jurisdiction.
but
If he
those are the
wants to get
fights you
him
want to fight and lose, Shez. That's what you're looking for. It's not the outcome. It's the idea
really,
that you're looking
because
for.
I would argue that a lot of us wanted Andretti on board,
Sure.
right? But actually his actions have still made him look bad because now he's stepped off and FOM have basically had their way. We haven't heard anything from Andretti. In fact, Andretti have lost Michael Andretti off their board. So, uh, like, I don't think I don't want him to get involved in stuff that he doesn't want to get involved. He doesn't need to get involved in because he sticks his foot in it whenever he does. But if there is a crusade that he wants to have, make it justifiable and do it in the right way. Just the execution needs to be right, I think. Do you
I,
understand my point? Like
yeah, no, I
I'm not trying
agree.
to shoot you down. I want to race in Africa as much as anybody wants to race in Africa, but it's not his jurisdiction to do
It
that.
is in his jurisdiction, and you're 100% correct. But I think there is a way to influence things, right? And I think you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, he's got to pick and choose his battles too. It's not like he can push for everything all at once either. But I think that the only reason you again put yourself in this limelight is because you feel like you're not getting the attention you need, or you feel like you're safe to continue. I mean, that's the only thing I can think because there's no rational reason for going out
Ah,
and kind of doing that other than that.
yeah,
So this is again, we're trying to play armchair psychologist on a guy that
yeah, I know.
the hard way.
I mean,
So
this is the thing. The thing is, contrary to what he says in that interview about not caring what they say, I feel like he is a YouTuber,
the
and
whole
and
idea is
and basically what he's doing is that he's creating an argument with the organization he actually needs to be friends with. The biggest thing that the FIA could do right now is be friends with FOM so that there's a unified policy coming out from that organization. That would at least allow us to have the teams we want, the races we want, the rules are built for fans, not for teams. If that were happening and they were presenting a unified face, I think Formula One would be much, much healthier. And I think that, if I'm going to end this on something, is is the battle of our time, as it were.
on that bombshell. Please like, please subscribe, please catch our stuff. We are doing a lot of different things. Some to keep ourselves occupied through this extra long summer break. But we will be back with another episode soon.
Remember, find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, and obviously on our YouTube channel. Thank
There
you
we
very
go.
much.